he actually thinks we believe that. The nerve of him sitting up there in his little robe. It's a joke.
Is it possible to make this happen faster? I have a reservation for lunch. Victoria Ashford, aged 23, is not holding back. She's browsing her phone, one leg over the other, and conversing with the bench as if it were customer service. Judge Frank Caprio sits down with his pen in the courtroom and asks Miss Ashford to put the phone away while addressing the charges. Is that not enough? Her lawyer, David R. Hale, stands firm. Your Honor, my client is prepared to pay all fines and resolve this matter today. Please sit down, as this court is not a payment platform. The words are harsh, but they hold true. David Hale hesitates before taking a seat, and then Caprio taps his pen once. Officer Dantes confirms the body cam audio cue. Yes, thank you. If you're feeling uneasy about Judge Caprio, subscribing is the way to go. The clerk comes forward. The Commonwealth v. Victoria Marie Ashford case involved the unlawful use of a parking lot that was accessible to disabled individuals. Parking enforcement issued 3 summon notices on Wednesday at 9:42 a.m. for Officer Leah Romano's failure to appear. Caprio's inclination is to move forward. Miss Ashford, did you receive the 3 summons notices sent to your home? My assistant is responsible for mail handling. Did you receive them, Miss Reyes? I'm guessing you haven't received it yet. The clerk nods. Yes, I honor. There are 3 certified notices signed by the defendant at their home. Caprio flips a page. It's worth noting that Miss Ashford was cautioned by campus parking enforcement 14 months ago for blocking a loading area at Brown University for more than an hour while carrying out catering. The issue is not criminal, but the decision is based on context. What transpired in relation to that event? Victoria shrugged. I don't remember anything annum. The report indicates that you informed the attendant that my family had given me the library, but it's not a punishment. David Hale is making progress in this manner. My client recognizes that she could have handled the situation more effectively. She's willing to pay the fines and move forward. Mr. Hale, paying a fine is nothing more than acquiring check-writing skills. I'm curious about what happened. Miss Ashford, take me through this on Wednesday morning. Victoria's squealing is audible. I parked in front of a pharmacy on Hope Street. I was inside for approximately 10 minutes when I emerged and discovered a ticket on my windshield. I tore it up and didn't believe it was legitimate. The space you parked in was marked with the international symbol of access and a diagonal striping, but it was also accessible from the van. No one was using it. Yes, it wasn't done, and there was no harm or foul play involved. Miss Ashford's statement suggests that harm is more than just a collision. She cites the mother, Laura Bennett, who arrived at the pharmacy at 9:51 a.m. as the source of the problem with the ramp. Victoria's absence from her therapy window was not my fault, but she could have parked her car elsewhere. David Hale disagrees. Your Honor, we're introducing emotional context that isn't relevant to the citation. Counselor, access denial is the material fact. Miss Bennett's daughter is confined to a wheelchair and could not enter the building as your client had blocked the only van accessible. This is not emotional harm. Caprio glances at the officer who was positioned near the side wall. Officer Romano, please type your story into the record, and we will speak to you. I saw a silver luxury sedan parked in an area that was easily accessible by the van in front of Hope Street Pharmacy at 9:42 a.m. The area had suitable signs and a diagonal stripe for entry. There was no disabled placard or license plate on the vehicle. I gave the citation and placed it against the windshield. At 9:53 p.m., I observed the driver, who was later identified as Victoria Ashford, exit the pharmacy, take off the ticket from the windscreen, shred it, and throw it in the road. I came closer and informed her of the offense. She exclaimed, "This is ludicrous. Can you tell me who I am?" When I refuted the citation, she informed me, "Let's write another one. My family provides for this community." Caprio pauses. Was that statement considered intimidating by you, Officer Romano? Yes, Your Honor. Victoria leans forward. The sarcasm was too much for me to handle. Let's hear the conversation. Officer Dantes, please play the body cam audio. A brief static of hissing is heard before Victoria's voice, which is clipped and dismissive, begins. My family is the backbone of this city. Caprio lets go for a moment. Yes, Marcus Ashford, the founder of Ashford Innovations, is your father. Has anyone in your family contributed significantly to Providence's philanthropic efforts, including municipal projects? What did you intend to convey when you stated, "My family is the financial supporter of this city"? Officer Romano, can you elaborate on your interpretation? The act of writing the citation as leverage is an implicit penalty for using it as such. Miss Ashford's response suggests that sarcasm does not aid in lowering the ramp. Caprio, on the other hand, has made contact with his clerk. Did you have any prior communication with the court regarding this case? The clerk examines a record. Bravo. 2 incoming calls and 1 voicemail, both registered to Ashford Innovations Donor Relations. Timestamps. The first call was made at 10:18 a.m. ET, and the second call came in at 10:00 a.m. Voicemail ended at 11:12 a.m. Moreover, we were contacted by a civic philanthropy liaison at 10:52 a.m., referring to an unobtrusive resolution. Read the email for yourself. The clerk declares that subject matter 24 to 10,847 is being resolved and that a citation was issued this morning. As the Ashford family has been actively supporting local initiatives, they are interested in discussing this matter informally and expeditiously. Please get in touch with us as soon as possible. David Hale is still standing. Your Honor, my client is not responsible for communications from her family's foundation. This is inconsequential. Overruled, process is affected when logged. I haven't accused anyone of committing a crime, but am documenting factual information. I didn't request them to call, but someone thought it would be helpful. Victoria takes her place in her seat. Can you provide a timeline? Cite this entry at 9:42 a.m. The first phone call from Ashford Innovations was made at 10:18. After 36 minutes, an email was sent at 10:52 a.m. and someone quickly moved in. Caprio glances at the clerk again. Is it possible for Miss Laura Bennett to give a concise response? She is, Your Honor, on the phone. Let her speak out. A woman's unwavering voice fills the space. My daughter, who has cerebral palsy, undergoes physical therapy twice a week. Wednesday was an important day, and I appreciate your kind words. We arrived at the pharmacy at 9:51 to retrieve her medication. Unfortunately, the side entry ramp was too high, and we missed the first 20 minutes of therapy when we found a new location. I couldn't use the stairs to get in. The therapist had to reschedule something. Infrastructure is the only prerequisite for access. It's not optional. Victoria mutters something inexplicable. Miss Ashford, if you have something to say, let me know clearly. I mentioned that it took 10 minutes, but that's a therapy session. Thank you, Miss Bennett. Your statement is recorded. The line goes on. Caprio brings up another document. Can you confirm the delivery of the 3 summons notices sent to Miss Ashford's residence, Miss Ray's? Your Honor is confirmed. The first notice was sent on October 2nd. The signing of the second notice was done on October 4th, while the other 2 were mailed to October 18th, and the final one was signed on November 1st. I'm unsure which one to trust, Ashford or per v. Victoria's jaws become tighter as a result. Although my assistant was aware of these things, I don't read every mailpiece. Miss Ashford has received 3 certified notices in the past 4 weeks, which is not an oversight. David Hale is moving forward at a slower pace this time. Honoring the Ashford family's commitment to philanthropic endeavors, we request that the remaining portion of this hearing be postponed due to public involvement. This could lead to unnecessary interference with ongoing civic partnerships, according to Mr. Hale. We're staying true to the facts. Caprio stares at Victoria with a composed scowl. I'll ask you 3 questions. Did you park in an unoccupied van and accessible area? Have you disposed of the citation? Yes. Did you ignore 3 summons notices? Victoria hesitates. I'm not sure they were serious. That's not a negative response. Did you overlook them? Yes, that's just disrespectful of you. Victoria raises her voice. My family has given millions to this community. We are responsible for funding programs and infrastructure, and you wouldn't have half of your own budget without us. Donations are not an option for Ashford, but they must be treated with respect. I'm curious about how much my father contributes to the city's operations. Your salary is remunerated by taxpayers like us. David Hale stands alert. Your Honor, my client is you. The money drew to a close after 5 seconds, 7, 10, 12, and no one moved. No one speaks. Victoria looks up at the bench, her eyes wide open, while David Hale's face pales before Officer Romano stands motionless near the wall. Caprio maintains his silence. Miss Ashford, you have nothing to hide in this courtroom. The process, the outcome, and me are not involved. Here's what I found. All 4 charges have been substantiated by the evidence. Body cam audio, photographs taken in a fixed camera lot, the torn citation, 3 confirmed summons notices, and the timeline of Foundation communications and emails are all in agreement. Miss Ashford was parked in an accessible and wheelchair-accessible area, preventing crucial family contact with mobility impairments. She vandalized dozens of records. She neglected to respond to 3 summons notices within a 4-week period. She used her family's financial aids in what Romano described as an act of intimidation. Caprio stops. This court does not evaluate cases based on financial status, donations, or family foundation connections. Borrowed money is not the same as borrowed authority. Miss Ashford, your family's philanthropy does not grant you ownership of public process. He turns a page. Additionally, I acknowledge the previous cautionary note from campus parking that was informative rather than retaliatory. You were previously informed that loading zones were significant. You made the decision not to grasp that lesson. The consequences teach us about what privilege obscures. $750 is the base fine, and $300 is for the unauthorized use of a disabled room. $300 is charged for contempt for failure to appear, and $150 is paid for the administrative expenses. Victoria exhales sharply. Caprio holds a hand. Unless you complete a restorative accountability plan in full and pay the full amount, I'll keep my portion of $400 in my pocket. If I don't complete the plan, the remaining portion will be refunded. The plan calls for written apologies to Officer Leah Romano and Laura Bennett, not formal letters drafted by your family's PR team. These letters contain actual remorse and will be delivered in person if they agree to meet. If either of them refuses, they will be mailed, and the court will verify their receipt. Additionally, both organizations will provide attendance logs for 150 hours of community service, which includes 75 hours at the Rhode Island Food Bank, the Mobility Access Coalition, and more. There will be no press releases or photo opportunities. As part of your duties, you will prepare and document 2 public service announcements on access equity and the difference between charity and entitlement for school distribution, as well as complete a module on donor influence ethics, with certification of completion to be submitted to the court. You will be asked to provide a 900-word reflection on the subject of money and authority, rather than using slogans crafted by someone in the communications field. Your submission will reflect the straightforward truth, as Caprio lays out his pen on paper and dispenses no discount. It's a formal agreement. Moreover, I'm submitting the following suggestions on the record to the Municipal Court Administration and the Mayoral Office. 1. Establish an ex parte ostensible influence record for all cases. Any attempts to communicate with donors or their representatives will be documented and made available for public scrutiny every week. Establishing a donor-reliant contact space with mandatory disclosure is necessary. Any lawsuits involving defendants' family members who have made substantial municipal donations must be flagged and promptly reported. Furthermore, the implementation of mandatory supervisor cosign and recusal procedures necessitates that any court staff member who receives an inquiry by donor representative must either recuse themselves or seek supervisor authorization. To reduce access denials, it is crucial to increase the priority for disabled bay tows. Unauthorized vehicles in accessible areas should follow immediate tow procedures. A municipal PSA series should be created with authentic testimony from families who rely on accessible infrastructure. Additionally, a clerk hotline will be established to counter influence attempts. The system is safeguarded by this model, which allows for anonymous reporting of any effort to exploit donations, connections, or wealth. Every report will be scrutinized. Subscribe to Judge Caprio. Over the next 12 weeks, Victoria finishes working on her plan, and in the first week of writing, she drafts her apology, which is rejected by the court due to its polished appearance. But she tries again in her own words. Better yet, Officer Romano agrees to meet her at a coffee shop near the courthouse. The conversation is brief, awkward, and necessary. He tells her, "When you said my family pays for the city, you made me feel like I was losing my job." Laura Bennett accepts the written apology, declines to meet in person, and emailed the court revealing her actions. Victoria spends 150 hours a week in both organizations, managing donations, stocks, shelves, and assisting with distribution logistics. No cameras, no press. According to a volunteer coordinator, her service is not about the people who rely on it. At the Mobility Access Coalition, she conducts accessibility audits at local businesses, learns about ramp angles and door widths, and coordinates community outreach visits. One wheelchair user believes that access is an inherent right. The first drafts of the PSAs, which are too scripted and corporate, are returned to the court during Week 9. She records them plainly again, with no branding or family references, just her voice and the truth. The second version takes another 3 weeks to complete the ethics module on donor influence. The ledger is straightforward, and she doesn't complain. Officer Romano reports that she logged in for 150 hours, had one PSA approved, one was set up with a firewall, and the other entitlement was interrupted. If you're over 50, please join the mailing list for mandatory service in wealth-based intimidation cases. Victoria attends court 12 weeks after the original hearing. This time, she's by herself, without any counsel, family representative, or entourage. Caprio examines the submitted documents, apologies, service records, PSA recordings, module certificate, and written reflection. "Miss Ashford, I've read your reflection too. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on the matter. You don't need to use a script. Victoria's position is that money is equated to access. I believed that my family's contributions to programs allowed me to park at my convenience, disregard tickets, and skip court dates. However, I was unaware that this meant public office was not for sale. It was a service." She pauses. "I was mistaken in thinking that I owned you, as I don't have any other possessions except for my own choices. While it can fund a library, it cannot provide me with the means to stop someone from using their ramp. I prevented Miss Bennett's daughter from going to therapy and informed Officer Romano about her job being for sale. What did you learn from his actions? My family's foundation does not employ public servants who serve the community and not individual donors. I attempted to corrupt this by using our donations. What did you learn from the Mobility Access Coalition? Access to parking is not based on convenience, but rather on mathematical calculations such as ramp angles, clearance widths, and transfer space. By blocking that space for 10 minutes, I didn't just derail someone from taking their medication. The importance of time lies in its infrastructure, as demonstrated by Caprio's nod to the need to prioritize respecting the system. I have paid off $350 of the stayed amount, but you still have to pay the full amount in installments over a 6-month period, with the court keeping an eye on it. It's important to note, Miss Ashford, that auctions are not for sale. Thank you, dear. Don't even thank me for teaching me something. The court's first ex parte influence log is released after 5 months, recording 3 contact attempts related to donors, and all activities are handled transparently using the new firewall protocol. The disclosure requirements have been reported as helpful to court staff. All municipal courts have implemented a donor contact firewall, flagging cases involving significant donor families automatically, and implementing supervisory causing protocols without any hindrance. The citywide escalation of disabled bay tow first results in a 47% decrease in the average clearance time for unauthorized vehicles and significant reductions in complaints from wheelchair users. The municipal PSA series launches with testimony from families who rely on accessible infrastructure. Victoria's recordings have been distributed to 31 schools, and while they may not have gone viral, they are still widely used. One parent has sent an email to the court. My son watched the PSA on van accessible spaces and asked why people were blocking them. We had a real conversation about access being right and not privilege. Caprio wraps up his final case on Friday afternoon. Before departing, he jots down a single principle on an old note card and attaches it to the bulletin board behind his bench. Public offices are not sold, but rather they are used for service. He reminisces about Victoria Ashford, Officer Romano, and Laura Bennett's daughter waiting in the van as therapy elapses. He locks the door and turns off the light. It's a dramatic kind of story and education, not journalism or legal advice.